Good evening, everyone. This video is actually going to be about Kuma and Panda, the bear characters. As you know, I'm doing a series of videos right now where I'm talking about some of the least popular characters in the game because I want to learn more about them and recommend them to more people. But then something happened last night. I went online with one of my main characters, Eliza, and I had one of the most fun sessions of online Tekken I've ever played. I hear a lot of people say recently that online is kind of toxic and difficult to enjoy, but I had a big stupid smile on my face the whole time thanks to this character. She's the character I'm the most excited about at the moment, and so the one I should be making a video about. Definitely another underappreciated character that I want to recommend to more people. However, I have to do this a little bit differently because in the other videos, I was kind of learning about the character for the first time as I made the video, but I've already been playing Eliza for like 2 years. So what I'm going to do in this one instead is I've turned on command history and I want to give you guys some cool tips and tricks, some sort of quality of life stuff and shortcuts to the character that I've picked up along the way to make her more approachable if you're interested in learning the character. I think there are two main reasons people don't want to play Eliza. The first one is that she's known for being sort of low tier, and that's definitely true. It has entirely to do with this low right here. If they just gave it a little bit more clean hit range, it would basically solve that problem for her entirely. But we've talked about that before. I'm not here to beat a dead horse. I'm also going to teach you a way you can work around that and actually force this low to work for mix-ups by setting it up with your dive kick a little bit later in this video. The other reason I don't think people want to play Eliza is that she's known for being very high execution, and that's also true. If you really want to be like peak efficiency with this character, I think she's probably one of the most difficult characters to use in the entire game. If you want to do like, 3 instant dive kicks in a row into true instant while running 1 for the spin and stuff like that, you can definitely practice that and have fun trying to perform it, but doing it in a real match is like close to unrealistic. But you don't have to do all of the difficult stuff right away either. I think the way to learn this character is to start out with a basic easy package of easy to understand and perform moves, and then adding the more difficult stuff gradually, like every once in a while go into practice mode and adding another tool to your toolkit. I want to give you that easy starter kit to start you out. I'm going to show you how to do basic combos with the character, and then I'm going to show you a couple of shortcuts to getting those more difficult inputs out nice and clean. I think one of the first things you want to worry about when you start learning Eliza is understanding her preferred range, and that involves a lot of backdashing because she likes to have air between her and the opponent. As you can tell, her backdash is not amazing, but it's not terrible either. It's going to do its job in allowing you to create that space and being at a range where your most powerful moves can come to the forefront. And when you have a little bit of breathing room with the character, there's like a small package of very effective moves that you can rotate to stay very dangerous with the character. The first one that I want to recommend and one that I use a lot is the Bloody Claw, which is your forward 2. This is your version of a Demon Paw and a very good move. It's safe, it's mid, it's got crush properties and decent range. It causes wall splats and everything, so a move that you can really abuse and throw a lot. The one thing about it is if you don't hold back after it hits, Eliza will start sleeping like this. This is called Dangerous Sleep. It allows you to charge a little bit of your blood meter for free, but it also leaves you vulnerable, and so I recommend that you basically never do it and always cancel this move when you're applying it. You have a stance with Eliza that is specifically designed for closing the gap. It's called Moon Glide. It's performed with forward 4 and looks like this, and you have access to your Bloody Claw from stance by pressing 2 out of it. Very easy to perform. And then it gives you a lot of extra range on this move, but it also makes it more telegraphed and easier to predict by the opponent. But when you do the move out of the stance, you have the option of mixing it with your Moonglide 4, which is an 18 frame to impact, so unseeable low that knocks down, and is actually very solid. This has much better tracking properties than you would suppose. It kind of seems to home in and follow the opponent across the stage a little bit. So a good little mix-up for your Bloody Claw from stance. And then your other important options when you have space right here is you've got the Fireball 2. This is Quarter Circle 4 2. Very important to apply a lot to harass the opponent. When it does connect, it's a good chunk of damage. It's just a very powerful move. It's her Reppuken, you know. But when you start throwing these, the opponent will definitely start sidestepping and sidewalking to avoid them. And what you want to do then is you want to start applying 4-4-3-3 and 4-4-3-4. These are homing powerful moves that you can do from a range. The 4-4-3-4 is a launcher that will allow you to convert for wall combos and stuff like that, even though it doesn't lead to very big damage. A no-brainer combo that you can pick up and do right away after this is just Moonglide 1, 1 jab, Moonglide 1, 1 jab, and then Moonglide 1, 2, 1+2, and that's not going to let you down. The launching version, the 3-4, is a duckable high, and then you have the 3-3 as the punishable mid mix-up to keep them honest when you're applying that. These moves are also available from stance, so you have the option of extending most of your important moves from a range using your stance. And so you can see how she's sort of made for being at that sort of pretty spaced out position. It allows her for this very powerful and honestly easy to apply package. And then you can do stuff like focus more on your movement, look for mistakes in the opponent and whiff punish them with your long range launchers, or with moves like, you know, back 3-1 or back 3-4. Another thing that I recommend you get into the habit of doing is actually preemptively jumping a bit. It's kind of powerful with this character because when you're in the air, your dive kicks become instant versions of themselves. And if you have meter especially, you can use EX dive kick as a very powerful sort of backswing blow launcher. So if you're jumping around, you see the opponent make a mistake when you're in the air. That's when you're going to dive down like a hawk with this and convert into a full combo. So you can move around and backdash, but you can also preemptively jump looking for dive kicks. The dive kick 4 is, of course, you know, the one that's going to lead to pressure, plus frames on block and hit. And the 3 is that big knockdown one that they actually gave counter hit properties recently, which is really powerful. It's a great counter hit launcher, honestly. So all of your dive kicks are good, and they become so much faster than when you're jumping. So, you know, if you're a 3D fighting game player, you're not used to jumping, but it becomes important when you're playing the 2D characters, especially because of those dive kicks. So I think working with your movement and working with your ideal range is one of the important places to start with the character. The next thing I want to talk about, this is actually very important because I made a video a long time ago now where I talked about how I recommend that you hold your controller or your fight stick when you play Tekken. And in that video I said that I'm not a big fan of using key bindings. And the reason I said that is I think it's dangerous when you're playing a very difficult game like Tekken that requires a lot of practice to get used to too many shortcuts. There are things in this game where you have to practice doing difficult things to learn the game, and avoiding those things and trying to find other solutions, I think it's a dangerous habit to get into. But when it comes to these characters, the 2D characters, I think it can actually be a very good idea to fuck with some key bindings. And the reason is, I don't know why, but they've made it so that you cannot actually button buffer EX inputs for the 2D characters in this game. So basically what that means is, this is Eliza's 1+2, it's the butt smash. So if I'm holding down the 1 and moving around like this, you can see that it's constantly being pressed because I'm holding it down. And if I just press the 2 button now, she's going to do the 1+2 every time because the 1 is buffered. But if I try and do the exact same thing with one of Eliza's EX moves, for example, this is Quarter Circle Back 1+2. It's you know, her wall splatting move. If I hold down the 1 again and now I do Quarter Circle Back 2, she's just going to do Quarter Circle Back 2. They will not allow you to buffer EX inputs for these characters. And so the only way of getting them out is pressing the 2 buttons at the exact same time. And if you do, I'm playing on PS4 control pad right now. If you bind 1+2 to your R1 and 3+4 to your R2, then you have a way to make sure that you always get that timing down perfectly because both buttons are the same button. And so it's one less thing to worry about when you're doing these high execution combos. You know that your EX input is going to be clean every time. So I've actually changed my view on key bindings as I've learned more about the game. I think there are exceptions where they can be honestly important and really almost improve, you know, the way you're playing the game. So definitely try using EX moves with key bindings with this character. If you're playing on stick, you know, use your spare buttons on the right side. The next thing I want to talk about is this low, how to perform it and how to force it to work as part of your mix-up. Like I mentioned earlier, the fact that this move does not have good clean hit range is basically considered the main reason the character isn't very good, because if your opponent is very good at Korean backdash canceling, they can slink out of the clean hit range of the move. When you don't have clean hit, it is no longer natural and they can block the DP2. If they block it, because it's such a famous, you know, dramatic, large, slow, and punishable animation, you're always going to eat a massive punish for getting that blocked, and so it becomes very high risk. But there are ways to work around that. First of all, how is it performed? Well, the DP2 by itself is God Fist input, so it's forward, neutral, down, down, forward, and then 2. And that can seem like a lot of stuff to have to do with your left hand when you're already busy performing this down 3 low. But there's a dirty trick to this that only Eliza players know, because while the game for some reason will not allow you to buffer attack buttons for EX inputs, they will allow you to buffer movement. So what you can do is, if I'm standing in front of a Kuma like this and I want to perform the move, I do a little move forwards, right, a little dash. The fact that I move forward right here, the game will actually count that and buffer that as my forward input for the forward, neutral, down, down, forward 2, meaning that all I have to do is dash in and then do down 3 quarter circle forward 2, and I'm going to get the DP cancel every time. It's kind of counterintuitive because it means that you're doing things sort of in the wrong order, but if you can get it down, it just makes the whole thing so much easier. And the fact that you have that little dash attached to it also means that you're more likely to be at clean hit range because you move closer into the opponent. Well, it does make it a little bit slower, of course. So how do you do that in tandem with your dive kicks? Because you can use your dive kicks to get advantage and lock the opponent down for mix-ups. First of all, instant dive kicks, they're very important with this character. If you want to learn more about how to perform them, go to my Season 2 Eliza guide, look in the description. There's a time code for the dive kick 4 section where I talk all about this move, how it works, how to perform it. But even if you're not doing instant dive kicks, if you're just doing it off of a down jab like this, which I really recommend, her down jab is one of her best moves. It's evasive, it's fast, it's extremely good. For all the reasons normal down jabs are good, but yours, you know, cancels into special, so it's even better. Its one weakness is that it can be low parried because it's special mid, but if your opponent starts doing that, mix in a couple of actual mids and deal damage to them, and then you can get away with that as well. So if you're coming down here with a dive kick and you want to perform a mix-up, if you want to use your down 3 DP2 cancel as the low in that mix-up, it can seem difficult because you can't land after a dive kick and then start like dashing forwards. Well, you could, but there's actually another way to do it. You can buffer forward inputs in the small window between the dive kick actually hitting or connecting with the opponent and Eliza landing on the ground. If you tap forward right there with the perfect timing, you can buffer it and then again just do down 3 quarter circle forward 2. And if you do that with the right timing, you're going to be able to get that cancel out really fast. I'm going to try and do it here. I've been talking for a while, so I might not get it first time. There it is. And that's what it's supposed to look like when you do it properly. So that's a great way of actually using that low as part of your mix-ups when you're applying dive kick pressure. An important technique with the character that took me a while to figure out, honestly. There aren't many manuals on how to play this character. Not many people use her, and so if you're trying to do this, you know, the difficult way, it's going to take a lot of time to get it all into your sort of muscle memory. But like I say, there are ways of making Eliza easier to use. Don't do the difficult stuff right away. Start out basic and then add fun stuff as you go along. And if you do, I think you're dealing with pretty much the most rewarding character to play in the entire game. Just wanted to give you a couple of tips and tricks, share your own, talk more about the character. I'm going to try and give her as much support as I can in videos going forward and talk less about the low tierness of the character, because something I realized is, say for example that Miguel doesn't show up in the next version of Tekken, that would be a tragedy for me. I would be extremely sad, but the main loss would be the sort of flavor of Miguel, the feel and the aesthetic. The actual play style, you can find similar stuff on Falcom, Katarina, maybe Feng, but with Eliza, the only character that is like her is Akuma, and he's a licensed guest character who's probably going to go away. Eliza is an original Tekken character who has a very unique playstyle that I want to preserve, and so I'm going to dedicate more time to try and foster, you know, more Eliza players on this channel. If I have some semblance of a small voice through this channel, I want to talk more about why the character is awesome and not why she's bad. And who knows, maybe those elusive buffs are still somewhere on the horizon. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you give Eliza a shot. I will see you guys again very soon.